911, what's your emergency?
I need to report a murder. I killed my wife last night. She's here in our living room. The dispatcher's voice falters slightly. Sir, can you verify your address? 4287 Oakwood Drive, Maplewood. The door's unlocked. At 8:17 a.m. on October 13, 2021, Raymond Porter made this call with the same casual tone someone might use to order coffee. When officers arrived at the pristine suburban home just outside Atlanta, they discovered a scene that contradicted the calm voice on the phone. Raymond sat in a leather armchair, freshly showered and dressed in pressed khakis and a blue button-down shirt. Across from him, sprawled on the cream-colored sofa, lay Olivia Porter's body, her nightgown soaked crimson, 17 stab wounds marking where rage had erupted hours before. The responding officers would later describe the bizarre contrast. Raymond's composed demeanor against the violent chaos frozen around him. He didn't resist arrest. He simply stood, placed his hands behind his back, and asked if someone could please lock up the house after they took him away. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they were hiding something deadly? Have you wondered what invisible line someone might cross that transforms love into murder? The story of Raymond and Olivia Porter isn't just about a marriage that ended in bloodshed. It's about the masks we wear, the secrets we keep, and how the people closest to us can become our greatest threat. If you've ever wondered how well you really know the people sleeping beside you each night, hit subscribe and the notification bell. Because the truth about Raymond Porter's shocking return and why he gave his wife HIV before killing her might just save your life one day.
Maplewood, Georgia sits 15 miles northeast of Atlanta, a community of winding streets, manicured lawns, and houses that whisper of upper-middle-class comfort. The neighborhood association wins awards for its seasonal decorations. Children ride bikes until streetlights flicker on. It's the kind of place where neighbors know each other's names and bad news travels in hushed tones. The Porter home stood as Maplewood's crown jewel, a 4,000-square-foot colonial with a 3-car garage and backyard pool. From the outside, the blue shutters and white columns projected stability. Inside those walls, Raymond and Olivia Porter had constructed what everyone believed was a flawless marriage. They were that couple everyone envied, said Tanya Williams, Olivia's closest friend since college. When they walked into a room, people noticed. Their story began at Georgia State University in 1997. Raymond Porter, a business major with varsity tennis credentials and presidential ambitions in his fraternity, first spotted Olivia Kendrick reading beneath an oak tree on the quad.
Friends described their courtship as a whirlwind. Within 6 months, they were engaged. They married shortly after graduation in a ceremony featured in Atlanta's society pages. Raymond climbed the ranks at New Life Pharmaceuticals, eventually becoming regional sales director. His colleagues described him as magnetic, the man who closed impossible deals and remembered everyone's birthday. Home videos showed a charismatic figure who dominated dinner parties with well-timed jokes and impressive wine knowledge. Olivia built her own respected career as an English teacher at Maplewood High School. Students consistently voted her most inspiring teacher. She coordinated the annual literary festival and ran the community book club from their sunroom every second Thursday. Liv had this way of making you feel like your thoughts mattered, former student Alyssa Martinez recalled. She pushed us to find our voices. Together, they commanded admiration. Raymond coached Little League baseball on weekends. Olivia organized charity drives. Their Christmas parties became legend, with invitations coveted throughout the neighborhood. The only shadow on their storybook life was their inability to have children, a private disappointment friends said they'd come to accept. For 20 years, they appeared to move through life in perfect synchronicity. Their Facebook photos showed trips to the Amalfi Coast, hiking in Colorado, and champagne toasts on anniversary cruises. Raymond's arm always draped protectively around Olivia's shoulders. I remember thinking they had everything figured out, said Michael Donovan, their neighbor of 12 years. They seemed completely in tune with each other. But beneath Raymond Porter's charming smile lay secrets that would ultimately turn their bedroom into a crime scene. The man who handed out coaching trophies and hosted neighborhood barbecues was constructing an elaborate facade, one that would collapse with devastating consequences. On April 17, 2018, Raymond Porter packed his carry-on suitcase for what should have been a routine pharmaceutical conference in Chicago. The three-day event featured a presentation he'd spent weeks preparing on New Life's latest diabetes medication. He seemed normal that morning, Olivia later told Detective Marcus Rodriguez. He kissed me goodbye, said he'd bring me back a box of Garrett's caramel popcorn. That was the last time I saw him. Security footage from O'Hare International Airport captured Raymond returning his rental car at 4:37 p.m. on April 19th. He rolled his black carry-on toward Terminal 5, the international terminal. His conference badge still hung around his neck. When Raymond missed his scheduled flight home to Atlanta, Olivia initially assumed he'd caught a later connection. By midnight, with no response to her calls or texts, worry crept in. By morning, panic. I called the hotel, the conference organizers, his colleagues, Olivia recounted in her police statement. Nobody had seen him since he left the afternoon session early. Credit card records revealed the final breadcrumbs of Raymond's known movements. A $4,219 cash withdrawal from an ATM near the airport, followed by the purchase of a one-way ticket to Mexico City. After that, nothing. His credit cards remained unused. His phone never connected to another cell tower. The Chicago Police Department classified Raymond as a voluntary missing person. Adults have the right to disappear, they explained to a devastated Olivia. Without evidence of foul play, their investigation stalled. Olivia refused to accept this conclusion. She hired private investigator Leon Vasquez, who tracked Raymond's movements to the Mexico City airport, but lost his trail afterward. She appeared on local news programs, created social media campaigns, and plastered missing person flyers across 2 countries. It was like he evaporated, Tanya Williams recalled. Liv was obsessed with finding answers. She couldn't sleep, barely ate. Her hair started falling out from stress. 6 months after Raymond's disappearance, Olivia took a medical leave from teaching. Her doctor prescribed anti-anxiety medication and sleep aids. Friends organized meal deliveries and took turns staying with her. The not knowing was destroying her, Michael Donovan said. Was he dead? Kidnapped? Had he chosen to leave? There was no closure. After a year of searching, Olivia reluctantly filed for divorce on grounds of abandonment. The court proceedings forced her to confront the practical realities of moving forward alone. Mortgage payments, insurance policies, joint accounts. Slowly, painfully, Olivia began rebuilding. She returned to teaching part-time. She joined a support group for families of missing persons. In late 2020, she met Thomas Brennan, a quiet, thoughtful accountant who coached her through refinancing her mortgage. Thomas was patient, Tanya explained. He understood she was still processing grief. He never pushed. Their relationship progressed cautiously. Coffee meetings became dinner dates. By spring 2021, Thomas had his own drawer in Olivia's dresser. They discussed traveling together once school let out for summer. For the first time in 3 years, Olivia allowed herself to envision a future without constant questions about the past. But just as Olivia began to heal, the doorbell rang on a rainy July evening in 2021. The doorbell chimed at 9:43 p.m. on July 17, 2021. Rain pounded against the windows as Olivia, wrapped in a cotton robe, padded across the living room floor. She expected to find Thomas, who sometimes brought late-night ice cream when he couldn't sleep. Instead, she opened the door to a ghost. Raymond Porter stood on her porch, thinner, deeply tanned, with new creases around his eyes, but unmistakably the husband who had vanished 3 years earlier. "Liv," he said simply, rain dripping from his hair. "I found my way home." Neighbors reported hearing Olivia's scream from 3 houses away.
They described seeing her collapse against the doorframe, her body reacting before her mind could process the impossibility standing before her. It was like watching someone see a corpse come back to life, neighbor Darlene Hicks recalled. Pure shock. Raymond's story emerged in fragments over the following days. He claimed to have suffered a psychological break during his Chicago conference, overwhelmed by mounting work pressure and midlife uncertainty. In this dissociative state, he fled to Mexico, then Belize, where he lived under the name Robert Patterson in a coastal village. I woke up one morning in a fishing shack with no memory of who I was, Raymond explained to a stunned Olivia. I took odd jobs, bartending, boat repair, whatever kept me fed. The locals called me Gringo Rob. According to Raymond, his memories began returning 6 months earlier after hitting his head in a boating accident. It came back in flashes, he told her. Your face first, then our address, then everything. He described selling handcrafted furniture to earn enough for his return journey. He had no passport, no identification. Everything was stolen early on, he claimed. I was broken, Raymond told Olivia. When it all came back to me, all I wanted was to come home to you. Friends converged on the Porter home when news spread of Raymond's miraculous return. They found Olivia dazed, caught between joy and fury, relief and suspicion. She was a mess of contradictions, Tanya Williams said. 1 minute crying in his arms, the next screaming about the years he'd stolen from her. Despite urgent warnings from her support network, Olivia allowed Raymond to move back in temporarily. Her therapist, Dr. Helen Marsh, described this decision as rooted in unresolved grief and a profound need for answers only Raymond could provide. Thomas Brennan stepped back respectfully when Raymond reappeared. I told her I'd be there regardless, he later explained, but she needed space to figure out what this meant for her life. While Olivia wrestled with forgiveness, those closest to her expressed deep concern. Raymond's story contained inconsistencies. No medical records supported his amnesia claims. His reluctance to speak with police raised red flags. I begged her to make him stay elsewhere, Tanya recalled. Something felt wrong about the whole situation. But Liv said she needed to look him in the eyes every day until she understood why he left. Have you ever had to decide whether to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? Share your thoughts in the comments below because what happened next shows how trust, once broken, can become a deadly weapon. The Porter home transformed into an emotional minefield during those first weeks of reunion. Raymond moved into the guest bedroom, a compromise Olivia insisted upon while they navigated their new reality. It was awkward, recalled Darlene Hicks, who joined the couple for dinner in August. They moved around each other like cautious dancers, overly polite yet distant. Nothing like the couple I remembered. Raymond claimed his old pharmaceutical connections were helping him secure consulting opportunities while working to restore his legal identity. These consulting jobs frequently took him away for days at a time. He refused Olivia's offers to drive him to the airport, always insisting on taking ride shares. He'd leave suddenly, often after receiving text messages that made him step outside to take calls, Olivia later told investigators. He became protective of his new phone, never leaving it unattended. During Raymond's absences, Olivia reconnected with Thomas for coffee. I encouraged her to question Raymond's story, Thomas said. The timeline didn't add up. Why did it take 6 months after regaining his memories to come home? Where was the proof of his life in Belize? By early September, Olivia's focus shifted from Raymond's suspicious behavior to her own declining health. What began as fatigue evolved into persistent fever, severe night sweats, and unexplained weight loss. During one 2-week period, she lost 11 pounds despite having no appetite changes. I initially blamed stress, Olivia told her doctor during her 3rd visit in 3 weeks, but something feels fundamentally wrong with my body. Dr. Kapoor ordered comprehensive blood work, including tests for autoimmune disorders and infectious diseases.
3 days later, he called Olivia back to his office rather than delivering results by phone, a decision that immediately alarmed her. The diagnosis shattered everything. HIV positive. "I've never seen someone so blindsided," Dr. Kapoor later testified. She kept repeating, "That's impossible," while staring at the results. In the shock of diagnosis, one clear thought emerged for Olivia. Thomas. She called him immediately from the doctor's parking lot, barely able to form words through her tears. Thomas rushed to get tested that same afternoon. His results? Negative. With only 2 sexual partners in the past 3 years, Thomas and the recently returned Raymond, the mathematical equation became inescapable. Her voice changed when she called me after Thomas's results came back, Tanya Williams recalled. It wasn't just grief anymore. It was fury. Questions multiplied. Had Raymond contracted HIV during his 3-year absence? Or had he carried it before disappearing? Had his return been motivated by knowledge of his condition? Had he deliberately exposed her? While Olivia processed this potential betrayal, Raymond returned from his latest business trip bearing expensive wine and concert tickets, gifts that now felt like blood money to a woman beginning to see the calculated nature of her husband's return. Olivia Porter, once an English teacher who analyzed fictional characters, now turned those analytical skills on her husband. With her HIV diagnosis as catalyst, she began methodically dismantling Raymond's carefully constructed fiction. The investigation began with Raymond's medicine cabinet. While he showered one evening, Olivia photographed a prescription bottle hidden behind shaving cream. The medication, Biktarvy, a complete HIV treatment regimen. The date, February 2020, 18 months before his return. The pharmacy, Coastal Health, Miami, Florida. "That was my first concrete proof," Olivia told Detective Rodriguez. "He knew his status long before coming back to me." Olivia's next discovery came through financial records. The divorce proceedings she'd initiated during Raymond's absence had granted her access to accounts she'd previously ignored. Late one night, after Raymond left for another consulting trip, she logged into their dormant joint investment account. The transaction history revealed withdrawals totaling $197,000 over 3 years, not from Belize, but primarily from ATMs in Miami's South Beach neighborhood. Credit card statements showed purchases at restaurants, nightclubs, and clothing boutiques in Florida's party capital. "He wasn't living in some fishing village with amnesia," Olivia later testified. "He was burning through our retirement fund in Miami while I sold jewelry to pay our mortgage." The final confirmation came from Raymond's laptop. While he claimed to still be working to recover his identity documents, Olivia found emails to the Georgia DMV regarding a replacement driver's license, dated 2 months before his dramatic return. His digital calendar contained appointment reminders with an infectious disease specialist in Atlanta. Most damning were emails between Raymond and someone named Vanessa, dated 1 week before his reappearance. "Money's almost gone. Time to come home to the wife and access the rest of the accounts. Don't worry, she'll take me back. She always forgives everything." Olivia compiled everything into a folder labeled Evidence and contacted Thomas, who helped her secure a consultation with attorney Gloria Martinez, specializing in cases involving criminal HIV transmission. "Georgia law is clear," attorney Martinez explained. "Knowingly exposing someone to HIV without disclosure is a felony carrying up to 10 years imprisonment." While Raymond slept that night, Olivia placed voice-activated recorders throughout the house, a suggestion from Gloria to gather potential evidence of admission. The recordings captured Raymond's late-night phone conversations. "She doesn't suspect anything. Yes, I'm still working on getting access to her teacher's pension. No, the diagnosis hasn't happened yet, but she's been sick, so it's just a matter of time." With each revelation, Olivia's fear transformed into calculated fury. She documented everything meticulously, building her case while maintaining a facade of normalcy with the husband who had returned solely to exploit her emotionally and financially. He wanted to drain me completely, Olivia told her therapist in their final session. First my savings, then my health, then whatever was left of my spirit. On the morning of October 12th, Olivia called in sick to work and spent hours organizing her evidence. She texted Tanya, "Tonight I confront him with everything. I'm done playing his game." What would you do if you discovered the person sharing your bed had deliberately exposed you to a life-altering disease? Would you confront them immediately or methodically gather evidence first? Olivia Porter chose the latter, a decision that would culminate in one final, fatal confrontation. Darlene Hicks was walking her terrier at 8:15 p.m. on October 12th when she first heard raised voices from the Porter home. By 8:45 p.m., she had texted her husband, "Something bad happening next door, screaming match at the Porters." The fighting got louder over the next hour, Darlene later testified. "I almost called the police, but then it suddenly went quiet around 10:30. I convinced myself they'd resolved whatever it was." Inside the Porter home, Olivia had arranged her evidence across the dining room table. Prescription bottles, bank statements, emails, and calendar screenshots. She waited in calculated silence until Raymond returned from his supposed business dinner. "You've been in Miami, not Belize," Olivia began when Raymond walked through the door. "You're HIV positive and have been since before you came back. You returned because you ran out of money." Raymond initially attempted denial, but Olivia methodically presented each piece of evidence, building an irrefutable case. The voice-activated recorders captured the entire confrontation. "Fine," Raymond finally snapped after 40 minutes of failed deflection. "You want the truth? I left because I was bored. 20 years with the same woman, the same house, the same life. I needed something exciting." Raymond described his 3 years in Miami, the parties, the relationships, the gradual depletion of their savings. He admitted receiving his HIV diagnosis in February 2020, beginning treatment, but concealing his status upon return. "I came back because I needed money," Raymond confessed on the recording. "The plan was to access your teacher's pension, sell the house, then disappear again once I had enough." Olivia's voice remained steady on the recording. "I'm filing criminal charges tomorrow. HIV non-disclosure is a felony in Georgia. You'll go to prison." She outlined her plans: immediate divorce, restraining order, criminal prosecution, and civil damages. She had already spoken with Attorney Martinez, who was prepared to file emergency motions the following morning. "You think you're so smart," Raymond said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "Always the perfect Olivia, judging everyone. You've got your new boyfriend waiting, your plan to destroy me. You think you've won." The recording captured footsteps, then the sound of a kitchen drawer opening. "What are you doing?" Olivia asked, her composed facade finally cracking. "Making sure you can't follow through on those threats," Raymond replied. The remaining audio captured crashes, screams, and Raymond's voice growing increasingly frenzied. Medical examiners later determined that the first stab wound struck Olivia's chest, followed by 16 more to her torso, neck, and face. Forensic analysts identified blood spatter at heights of up to 7 feet on the living room walls. Raymond's handprints, smeared with Olivia's blood, marked the kitchen counter, hallway walls, and bathroom sink where he later washed himself. After the attack, Raymond showered, changed into fresh clothes, and sat in an armchair across from his wife's body. For 10 hours he remained there, motionless, except to sip occasionally from a glass of scotch, until making his eerily calm 911 call the following morning. CSI technician Paul Winters documented the scene. The juxtaposition was jarring, extreme violence frozen in time, with the perpetrator sitting calmly amid the chaos he created. This story shows how quickly domestic situations can turn deadly. If you know someone in a dangerous relationship, resources are in the description. Like this video to help spread awareness, because recognizing warning signs might save someone from becoming the next Olivia Porter. When officers Jensen and Maxwell arrived at 4287 Oakwood Drive at 8:26 a.m. on October 13th, they discovered a scene that defied conventional human behavior. Raymond Porter sat composed in his armchair, hands folded in his lap, directly facing his wife's body. He looked like someone waiting for a dental appointment, Officer Jensen noted in her report. No visible distress, no urgency in his movements. When we entered, he simply nodded as if we were expected guests. The 911 dispatcher had flagged the call as potentially suspicious due to Raymond's unnaturally calm tone. The recording reveals his methodical delivery. Audio clip of 911 call. "I need to report a murder. I killed my wife last night. She's here in our living room." "Sir, are you still at the location?" "Yes, I'll be waiting for you." End audio clip. Raymond offered no resistance during arrest. He declined his right to an attorney, stating, "I have nothing to hide anymore." During 12 hours of interrogation, he provided detailed descriptions of the murder, speaking about himself in an oddly detached third person. It was like he was describing a movie he'd watched, Detective Rodriguez recalled. He remembered exactly how many times he stabbed her. He described the interesting way the knife felt going in. His emotional disconnect was profound. News of the murder stunned Maplewood residents. Within hours, a memorial of flowers appeared on the Porters' lawn. Olivia's students held a candlelight vigil outside the school. Community forums filled with people struggling to reconcile the charming neighbor they knew with the calculated killer he revealed himself to be. "I had dinner with them just weeks ago," Michael Donovan told local reporters. "Ray refilled my wine glass, complimented my new car. How do you reconcile that man with someone capable of such violence?" The district attorney's office moved quickly, charging Raymond Porter with first-degree murder. Additional charges followed for knowingly transmitting HIV without disclosure, a felony carrying up to 10 years in Georgia. "This case represents an extraordinary breach of trust," District Attorney Vanessa Montgomery stated during a press conference 3 days after the murder. "Mr. Porter not only abandoned his wife without explanation, but he returned with apparent intention to harm her physically through deception about his HIV status, followed by the most intimate betrayal possible, taking her life when she sought justice." The medical examiner's final report classified the murder as exceptionally violent, noting that several wounds were inflicted after Olivia had already died, suggesting rage that extended beyond the goal of simply silencing her. Raymond Porter's trial began in April 2022, drawing national media attention. The prosecution's case appeared insurmountable. The 911 confession, voice recordings of the confrontation, forensic evidence, and Raymond's detailed statements to investigators created an overwhelming narrative of guilt. Despite this, Raymond initially entered a plea of not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. His court-appointed attorney, Jeffrey Winters, argued that Raymond experienced a psychotic break during the confrontation. "My client suffered from diminished capacity," Winters told the jury during opening statements. "The years of living a double life created psychological pressure that exploded in that moment." This defense collapsed during week 2 of the trial, when prosecutors presented Raymond's journal entries, discovered on his laptop. The writings revealed meticulous planning and calculation rather than impulsivity or confusion. March 15, 2021. "Running out of funds. Need to return to Atlanta soon. Olivia will take me back, she always does. Just need to play the confused husband for a few months until I can access her accounts." Faced with this evidence, Raymond abruptly changed his plea to guilty. What followed stunned the courtroom into silence. Given the opportunity to address the court before sentencing, Raymond claimed his actions were motivated by compassion. "I gave her HIV because I knew she would eventually leave me," Raymond stated. "When she learned about her diagnosis, I could see how devastated she was. She wasn't going to survive it well. I saved her from suffering." This statement prompted Judge Eleanor Franks to order an immediate psychiatric evaluation. The assessment, conducted by 3 independent experts, produced unanimous findings. Raymond Porter met diagnostic criteria for both narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. Dr. Cameron Jenkins explained to the court, Mr. Porter demonstrates the hallmark features of these disorders: lack of empathy, grandiose sense of self-importance, exploitation of others, deceitfulness, and absence of remorse. Most concerning is his ability to maintain a facade of normalcy while harboring profound emotional detachment. The psychological analysis extended beyond Raymond to examine Olivia's vulnerability. Dr. Camilla Thornton, testifying as an expert in trauma psychology, introduced the concept of ambiguous loss to explain why Olivia allowed Raymond back into her life. When someone disappears without explanation, normal grief processes are disrupted, Dr. Thornton testified. The person left behind exists in a state of frozen grief, unable to find closure. This creates particular vulnerability when the missing person returns, regardless of how much time has passed. Judge Franks delivered her sentence on May 17, 2022, life imprisonment without possibility of parole, plus 10 consecutive years for the HIV non-disclosure charge. Her statement to Raymond echoed throughout the hushed courtroom. You exploited your wife's capacity for forgiveness, weaponized her trust, and extinguished a life dedicated to teaching others. The court finds no mitigating factors whatsoever. 1 year after Olivia Porter's murder, Maplewood High School dedicated its library in her memory. The English department established the Olivia Kendrick Porter Memorial Scholarship, awarded annually to a graduating senior pursuing education or literature studies. Liv always said teaching wasn't just about books. It was about helping students find their voices, Principal Diana Wright said during the dedication ceremony. This scholarship ensures her mission continues. The case's impact extended beyond Maplewood. Thomas Brennan, who tested negative after Olivia's diagnosis, channeled his grief into advocacy. He now leads the Georgia Coalition for HIV Education, providing resources for testing, counseling, and legal support for disclosure cases. What happened to Olivia could have been prevented at multiple points, Thomas explained during a recent interview. We need comprehensive education, accessible testing, and support systems that remove the stigma around HIV. When diagnosis becomes something people hide rather than address openly, tragedy follows. The psychological aspects of the Porter case have become teaching material in criminal justice programs nationwide. Detective Marcus Rodriguez, who led the investigation, now lectures about intimate partner violence and control dynamics. In 20 years of law enforcement, I've never encountered a case that better illustrates how dangerous a sense of ownership over another person can be, Rodriguez states in his presentations. Raymond Porter didn't see Olivia as a separate human being with her own life and choices. He saw her as an extension of himself, and when she threatened his self-image, he eliminated her. The Porter home remained empty for 2 years before being purchased by a nonprofit that converted it into a transitional housing center for survivors of domestic abuse. The organization's director called it transforming a space of destruction into one of healing. This tragic story reminds us that sometimes the greatest dangers come from those we trust most. If this video made you think differently about trust and relationships, please subscribe to True Crimes Unlimited for more stories that might one day save your life.